Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week's 10 days, or today's second video, which takes us around the 16th of September. So we're heading into the middle part of the month with the week's 10-day video updates at the moment. And it looks like high pressure is coming back. High pressure is returning from the middle of September, so it looks like we're going to certainly a drier spell of weather, may become warmer as well. Although I expect nights will be a little bit on the chilly side. Anyway, I'll talk you through everything that's going on there in a moment. We're going to start off with the situation of the tropical Atlantic, and we'll also have a look at the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations today as well. The first video up today was January Friday, so that's your month ahead look ahead. That's taking us into the beginning of October now, can you believe? So have a look at that when you're finished with this video. Tomorrow we'll have a weekend forecast, a week's 10-day video update, and we'll begin with our evaluation for the summer forecast. Right then, so we're going to start off in the tropical Atlantic, and we've got lots of areas of interest at the moment. So let's deal with Gabrielle first of all. That, of course, was Tropical Storm Gabrielle. Gabrielle has now gone post-tropical. So that is a post-tropical storm as of 5 AM this morning, giving 40-mile-an-hour winds with a central pressure of 1,004 millibars. It's moving northwestwards at 12 miles per hour. It looks like it's going to power up a little bit over the weekend, actually. So at the moment, it's sort of post-tropical and likely to stay that way into Saturday. But then on later Saturday into Sunday, it looks like it's becoming like Gabrielle's reforming into a tropical storm again, powering up as it moves northwards. By the middle of next week, a post-tropical storm again, pushing further north, as you can just make out the western coast of Ireland just there. So getting quite a long way north by the middle of next week, and again, it will be post-tropical by then. So sort of weakened over the past 24 hours, will power up over the weekend into the beginning of next week, and then we come back to a post-tropical storm by the middle of next week. That's Gabrielle. Then, of course, we've got our yellow X's just here. So we've got this one just there. See what I said about that. It's disturbance-free with a 10% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. So they're saying disorganised showers, thunderstorms located several hundred miles east of the Leeward Islands are associated with tropical wave development, if any, of the system will be slow to occur while it moves slowly northwestward during the next 48 hours. Has a 10% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 48 hours and a 10% chance in the next 5 days. So don't think you have to worry too much about that one at the moment. And then we've got this yellow X just here over towards Cabo Verde Islands. So what they're saying about that one is disturbance 2 with a 20% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours, but a 70% chance, much higher, in the next 5 days. So they're saying a low pressure system located just west of the Cabo Verde Islands is producing small areas of disorganised showers and thunderstorms. Little, if any, development is expected during the next couple of days, but environmental conditions are expected to become favourable for a tropical depression to form early next week, while the system moves westward across the tropical Atlantic Ocean. Enhanced rainfall is possible across the Cabo Verde Islands through today as the low moves away from the area. So, doesn't look like much going to happen with this in the next couple of days, but in the next 5 days, this could well become our next named tropical storm, potentially hurricane. And then finally, we've got Dorian. Of course, Dorian is still hanging around, gradually moving up the eastern seaboard of the States. That's the current position of now Category 1 Hurricane Dorian, giving sustained winds of 90 miles an hour with a central pressure of 956 millibars. And it's moving northeastwards at 12 knots or 14 miles an hour. So, really has got to move on. You remember a couple of days ago, down around the Bahamas, this was only at moving around 1 mile an hour. So it's barely moving at all. But as it's drifting northwards, it is certainly getting a move on. What they are saying with this one is, let's go to there. So you want to go to static images just there. And what they're saying, so it's still a Category 1 hurricane at the moment, going to stay that way up until tomorrow afternoon, when it goes post-tropical just there. And of course that's south of Greenland. By Tuesday is to the south of Greenland in the North Atlantic as a post-tropical area of low pressure. So the discussion with that finally is looking like this. So just two key messages. Life-threatening storm surge and dangerous winds are expected to continue along portions of the North Carolina coast, portions of the southeast Virginia coast, and also southern Chesapeake Bay. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a very strange looking name. Water levels could rise well in advance of the arrival of strong winds. Residents in these areas should follow advice given by local emergency officials. Flash flooding is occurring and will continue to become more widespread across the eastern Carolinas, the far southeast Virginia this morning. There is a high risk of flash flooding over these areas where significant life-threatening flash flooding is expected. These are the wind gusts, so it stays just about as a Category 1 hurricane for the next 36 hours, and then it goes post-tropical as we get through to the second half of the weekend. And then that'll be the end of Dorian, but then of course all eyes will be on that next disturbance area, which is currently around the Cape Verde Islands. Will that one develop into our next hurricane next week? We shall wait and see. Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart looking like this. So black line shows where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation, red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. We went through a prolonged negative phase of the Arctic Oscillation back into the end of the spring, really, and throughout the summer we had considerable levels of northern blocking. The AO has gone positive as we've gone into September. That's 1st September just there. You see the AO trending upwards. Where we are right now is with a weekly positive Arctic Oscillation. GFS ensembles, certainly for the next week, 10 days, forecasting the AO to generally stay around weekly positive. Maybe signs that it's dipping down back into negative into the second half of September. So a few hints at the second half of September could start to reveal a return of northern blocking. But certainly, let's say for the next week to 10 days, the Arctic Oscillation is positive. So this tells us, remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything, just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. When the AO is in its positive phase like this, we've got low pressure up over the pole. When the AO is negative, we've got high pressure blocking over the pole. So it tells us that for the next week, 10 days, we're going to have low pressure up towards the pole, and then possibly signs of northern blocking into the second half of September, perhaps. NAO very similar. Black line again shows where I've been with the NAO. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. Prolonged negative phase of the AO and the NAO since the latter part of the spring, although into September, that's 1st September just there, the NAO has gone positive. We are currently weekly positive with the NAO, and GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to stay weekly positive as well up to the middle of September. So both the indexes are in a weekly positive phase. This tells us that we've gone back to a much more typical type pattern, I think, with high pressure around the Azores and reaching into the west of Europe at times, low pressure around Iceland, and it's just a much more typical sort of pattern that is occurring during this September. We've done JMA Friday, and the title of that is kind of like typical September conditions, and that is indicative really of this positive phase of the AO and NAO that we have entered into. So nothing too dramatic over the next week to 10 days. Anyway, it looks like things are very, very much back into a more typical, sensible type weather pattern for this time of the year. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. Next couple of weeks, the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Birmingham. So a bit cooler than average at the moment. Going to stay that way for the next few days as well. So over the weekend into the beginning of next week, it will be quite cool. Then after that, we've got a warming trend appearing as we go into the middle of September. That's day 10 just there. There is a lot of scatter associated with that, so some of these while some members down here are quite cool, but these ones up here are a lot warmer. So I suspect what's happening with that is that within high pressure, we are seeing alternating air masses, differing air masses, indicative of high pressure at this time of year. Remember, in September, high pressure will tend to give relatively warm, pleasant days, but potentially quite cold nights, depending on whether the high is clear. And the air mass is quite important in September, as high pressure is not guaranteed to give particularly warm conditions, and that becomes even more so as we get through into November, October and November. Of course, precipitation wise, going to be a few showers coming up over the next couple of days, and then early next week actually going to be quite wet. Monday looks like it'll be quite a cold, wet day. After that, though, we have a definite drying trend into middle part of September. So drier and warmer for a while anyway. Through the middle of September is the way that we're trending here with higher pressure. Temperature anomalies from the 6th to the 14th of September, below average for the UK, Ireland and most parts of Western Europe as well. Precipitation anomalies from the 6th to the 14th of September, generally on the drier than average side. Looks quite cool and dry. I would expect these charts to stay dry, but I think they'll trend warmer in the days ahead. That's how the GFS is looking for Monday. So a trough of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic on Monday, bringing quite a lot of cloud and outbreaks of heavy rain. That moves out of the way as we go through into Tuesday, but another low pressure rolls in over the top. It takes a little while to start building up any high pressure next week. This one, of course, contains the remains of Hurricane Dorian. That's the remains of Hurricane Gabrielle. I think that low pressure just there. Oh, it was a hurricane. It's a tropical storm. Gabrielle just there. Into Thursday, so the remains of tropical storm Gabrielle then are to northwest of Scotland. That's remains of Hurricane Dorian up there. The upshot of having those two in the North Atlantic is to start to raise the heights to our south and start to build up some warmth in the North Atlantic as well. So high pressure beginning to get pumped up by remains of those hurricanes and tropical storms. And as we go through to the end of next week, then high pressure is beginning to take over, and that increases up to day 10. That's Sunday the 15th of September. This is day 10, which is Monday the 16th of September, and high pressure is in control then, bringing lots of dry, fine, and probably by day pleasantly warm conditions. Nights could be a little bit on the colder side though. In the more extended range, it starts to turn more unsettled again with this particular GFS run. We begin to bring low pressure back in from the North Atlantic, although high pressure never far away. That's how we finish up at the end of the GFS run on Sunday, 22nd of September, ridging high pressure back in, although winds are returning to the north, so that's a little bit on the cool side. GEM looks like that again. Monday, quite a wet day potentially. That gets out of the way into Tuesday and Wednesday. Try to build a bit of a ridge into the south, but low pressure is still in control of the weather on Wednesday. It's not really until Thursday and Friday, and then into the weekend beyond, that high pressure increasingly starts to take over. Now, I just realised that is actually yesterday's GEM run. So actually up to 144 hours. That is today's GEM run. Sorry about this, something's gone wrong at West Central. Up to 144 hours, which gets us to Thursday the 12th of September. That chart and the charts before it, that's all from this morning's GEM run. But beyond that, as we get to 168 hours a week away, then we start going back to yesterday's GEM run. So I think we will very quickly get rid of that and move on. Sorry about that, I hadn't noticed. I've got charts up that there was a problem there. Right, we're into the ECMWF next. So this is all going to be from today's ECM run, I'm sure of that. So low pressure on Monday, bringing quite a lot of rain across the country on Monday. Then as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, the high pressure builds to the south, although in the north and west it's quite unsettled with areas of low pressure containing those tropical elements within them. Into the second half of next week, so the low pressure and the jet stream is getting inched further northwards as high pressure, particularly down in the south, is building up. This high pressure increasingly takes over then as we move into the weekend of the 14th, 15th of September. High pressure well and truly in control. There it is, slap bang over top of the country. It's a big area of high pressure by day 10. That's Monday the 16th of September, and we've got a 1035 millibar massive area of high pressure centred over the UK and Ireland by then. That would take some shifting and will probably imply that the days beyond that, at least several of them, will be anticyclonic, mainly dry and fine conditions. These are the scenarios I've got within the ECM ensembles today at day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. This is the 16th of September. So, 12 members of the ECM ensembles with above average heights to our west-southwest, below average heights to our northeast. Jet stream's doing something a little bit like that. So, there's a lot of dry weather on offer with those. Could be a little bit unsettled up in the north. Then we have 10, number 10 with high pressure over just to the south of the country, low pressure just to the north. Jet stream again is pushed northwards with those 10. Mainly anticyclonic, dry and fine conditions. Another 10, including the ECM control and operational run, with high pressure centred over the top of the country. Low pressure is up there. So all of these, the 12 there, the 10 there, the 10 there, they are all anticyclonic in one way or another, really. So that's a broad thrust of the ECM ensembles. Then we have 9 down here that are more unsettled, low pressure just out to the northwest of the country. Certainly for northern and western parts of the country, that would be a more unsettled scenario. These 6 are the most unsettled scenario of all. They more or less have a trough of low pressure over top of the UK and just to our east. They're cool and wet. But it's a very minority option. And then there's 4 just here that have the high pressure more towards Scandinavia. So they're mainly dry, but they're bringing cooler northeast winds. It does look as though high pressure is very likely to be in control in 10 days' time. In 2 weeks' time, going to the 21st of September, these are the options that we've got. So 12 members of the ECM ensembles extending in a trough of low pressure over Scandinavia and covering western parts of Europe. That's a cool, unsettled scenario. We have 9 with high pressure just to the north of the country. That's the mainly dry scenario. 9 with a weak trough down to our southwest. Some sort of tropical element is just there, and a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic. 8 again with low pressure just to our northeast. 7 with high pressure just to our northeast. And 6 with high pressure almost over top of the country yet again. So by the time you get to 2 weeks out, it looks like there's more or less a 50-50 chance of still being under high pressure or possibly going to something unsettled. Fine, just have a look at CFSV2 for October. Last thing we'll look at for this video. So this is 700 millibar height anomaly for October 2019. At the moment looking quite unsettled, with the CFS has an area of below average height sitting over just to the northern country. That would bring in westerly winds. So that would be a pretty unsettled October, I would have thought. Temperature anomalies with the CFS for October being forecast to be warmer than average. Precipitation anomalies, no signal, but obviously with a trough of low pressure more or less parked over the top of the country, you would have thought it's likely to be quite a cool and wet month, actually, although it is going for significantly warmer than average temperature anomalies, but I don't see why that should be the case really in October. I would have thought low pressure dominating in October with westerlies is likely to be around average, really, temperature-wise. You'd expect a centering temperature around 10 to 11 Celsius with that kind of scenario, so not a particularly big deviation either way. But I would have thought a wetter than average month would be like. Been quite a while since we had a wet October, so maybe we are due for one. We shall see. Coming back to the more reliable time frame, so we're going to start off next week quite unsettled. High pressure will build in through the course next week. It's going to take a while, certainly around the middle of next week. Still looks quite unsettled, particularly up to the north. And then it's really towards the end of next week, so this time next week, if you like, and then through to the following weekend, and probably extending out beyond that to the following week. That's when it looks like we're going to hook up a ridge of high pressure, and at least for a while we'll have some settled weather. How long that high pressure hangs around for into the second half of the month remains to be seen, but certainly for the middle of September, high pressure looks like it's back in business. Right, tomorrow we'll start off with the evaluation of the summer forecast, see how we did with that. We'll have weekend forecasts as well, tomorrow, and of course we will also have another week 10-day video update. Sunday we've got the second winter update number 2 for winter 2019-2020. The first update went down very, very well, I think. So we'll see what second update has to say, and of course there will be another live discussion between 5 and 6 o'clock on Sunday afternoon/evening on the Gaz Weather This YouTube channel, if I can get all of the software working this time. Right, that's all for now though, and thanks for watching.